Thanks for joining us today for this session of Under the Apple Tree with Bob Kenny. We haven't posted anything recently since we've sold a house, bought a house, and moved halfway across the country, but we're back. In today's session, I spend time with Jeremy Quaglia, who is the founder and owner of the High Limb Cidery, located in America's hometown, Plymouth, Massachusetts. I hope you find informative our discussions about the great ciders that Jeremy and his team are bringing to the marketplace. We also talk about the state of the cider industry in Massachusetts and New England as a whole. And also, we talk about Jeremy's future expansion plans. I hope you enjoy the interview. We'll like the channel and subscribe. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today for our first Under the Apple Tree with Bob Kenny in the state of Massachusetts. I am here today with Jeremy Quaglia, who is the founder and owner of High Limb Cidery in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Jeremy, I want to thank you for your time today.
Of course.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Our first venture into the great state of Massachusetts.
I love it. I love it.
So, Jeremy, tell us about High Limb. How'd you get into the cider business? How long have you been operating, and why Plymouth?
Sure. So we started as a parents' basement, sort of grassroots operation. I went to school in Boston. I really liked the brewing scene there. I was in the music industry before that on the manufacturer level, and I really liked seeing people build stuff with their hands, organic growth, people growing grassroots operations, the hustle, the creativity, things like that. I was making beer and I was making cider at the same time. People really liked the cider we were making. I'm sure the beer was okay, but people liked the cider instead. So, the light bulb moment went off, and then I just started tinkering away.
And how did you get to tinkering to production?
Tinkering came from a lot of bad batches, explosions, late nights. My parents calling me while I'm at like a friend or girlfriend's house, and they're like, everything's leaking downstairs, it's all wet, and having to run home. And so just really reading, researching, and it's like anything in life, you become obsessed with it, you can't get enough information, testing and trials and stuff like that. So.
And how'd you wind up in Plymouth?
So I wound up in Plymouth because when we first started in actual production back in Attleboro, I did a lot of business down here. Really cool community, very supportive community. They love eating, drinking, art, supporting that. And so I really wanted to be a part of it. And we uprooted from Attleboro and built our new facility, and it's been really great.
So overall, how many years have you been actually production-wise been making cider?
If you're counting, hand labeling each bottle and filling one by one, it's about 10 years.
Okay.
It's about 10 years, yeah. Very, thank you. Yeah, we started an old industrial building on the second floor, which we didn't know how bad of an idea that was at the time. My dad and I hand-built all of the original equipment, jacketed the tanks ourselves. So it's a family affair for sure.
That's cool. Great. So talk a little bit about the cider scene in the state of Massachusetts. As I said, this is my first venture. I've come home, living back here, grew up in Boston. Now that I'm back, explain to the viewers what's it like here in the cider world in Mass.
Really strong cider scene. When we started, there was a lot of breweries, not a lot of ciders. I looked at Angry Orchard really as an industry category builder, and they're still huge. I would love to be the size that they are. Since then, there's about a half dozen pretty sizable companies that have popped up in Massachusetts, really inundating the state with some really cool, innovative, quality product. There's obviously mass-produced stuff. We're on the craftier end. There's some even smaller guys than us, but we really try and meet in the middle, because I think the Massachusetts cider consumer now is spoiled in the best way by having a real spectrum of different things to choose from, kind of like craft beer was about 10 years ago, I'd say.
And not only Mass, but New England has really stepped up in the cider world, right?
Yes, absolutely. We were in Mass, Rhode Island, Connecticut, looking to expand more soon. And typically, about 10 years ago when I started, we do countless tastings and events. A lot of it is education of teaching someone what cider is. I don't have to do that anymore. Everyone knows. You know, we had spoken briefly about how it used to be such a large category nationally, and then it kind of flip-flopped with beer. This is kind of like a golden age of cider again, and I don't have to educate as much as I used to at tastings and events of what cider is. People typically know what it is and even have a favorite brand.
That's great. Good to hear, because I think that the more that we do educate, the more people, I think, become more comfortable with it. Because I know a lot of places, I don't think they fully understand what cider is. They think that the big national guy who's got about a 45 market share is what it is. And it's a bunch of sugar thrown into Thanksgiving cider. Now that you're here, you're in this production facility, and hopefully you guys can see a little bit, and I'll show you some more later. Where do you source your apple juice?
Yeah, so we get it all Mass, Rhode Island, New England as possible. Given growing conditions in certain situations, climate, weather patterns, everything, sometimes you have to source out of state, but we try and keep everything as locally sourced as possible. We keep a really consistent blend, and it's funny when I explain to beer industry friends and whatnot, you know, a stout has a grain bill. We have an apple bill. So we stay really consistent with that, and we work with local, you know, producers and suppliers. You're seeing a lot of that golden age of cider represent itself in growers, because when I started, you saw a lot of growers selling their crop share to hops or cannabis, and you're actually seeing a lot of them switch back to apple trees now, which is cool.
How hard is it for you to find the apples or the juice from the apples that you want? So I know that cider apples are not the ones you find in the store.
Exactly.
For most part.
Yeah. We have a really good relationship with suppliers. We initially started out wanting to press our own and build our own pressing facility. Quick to learn, you know, at 24 years old, that's an entire business within itself. It's like a scratch kitchen, you know, it's very hard to scale that. And so what we do is we work with local producers and have really good agreements of what we want, the blend, and then we're able to adjust from there if we need to.
Excellent, excellent. Now, how many different styles of cider are you guys making at one time, and do you have on tap?
So,
quite a few.
Yeah, usually on tap we have at minimum 14. We have anywhere up to 18, sometimes 20. Out in the market, we typically have about a rotation of 6 different styles. Okay. We have core SKUs, we have seasonals, and then we have a higher alcohol series. Overall, I think we've had about 80 different releases since we started. So,
10 years?
Yeah, which is fun. And none of them are 5-gallon batches. They're all pretty large. Not everyone's a home run. So not everyone's a home run. Some of them are a one and done for sure. Better off that way.
Now, you mentioned you're in some of these other markets. Talk to us about the award for the New York International Cider.
Yeah, Cider Maker of the Year.
Yeah,
which was cool. Yeah. Really cool. I was
like 7 medals that period. Or
we won a lot of medals. It was really cool. We had won a few gold medals. I can talk more about them because the first one that we won was for pumpkin spice, which we made just tongue-in-cheek. And so I'm like, that's pretty cool to win a medal. I entered into an international competition and we won 7 awards. Core, which we're drinking right now, won gold, and then we won Cider Maker of the Year, which was really cool. I was out at
That was just last year.
That was last year.
24.
Yep, halfway through. You know, we do a lot of good business on Martha's Vineyard, and so I was out there visiting accounts, and it was just a hectic, crazy day, and I opened up it actually got kicked to spam first, their initial email about letting me know, so I opened up my spam and I read it, and I've never really been one for awards, but that one was pretty cool for me. That one was really cool, because we work hard, and my guys work hard here, and as a whole facility, there's a lot of corners to be cut, and it's really painful not to cut those corners financially and work-wise, when you don't do that and it turns into a cool reward, it was just a nice feeling. So.
Well, I mean, yeah, that gives you tremendous prestige.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no,
thank you.
Absolutely. And those medals also out of the Great Lakes, right?
Yeah, we won a bunch of awards there. Yeah, Glencap. That was the first year we entered. I have to be honest, very nervous because they're a very prestigious award program. I was assuming we were kind of going to get our butt kicked and just like, well, it's, that you have all the best ones in the world there. And we did really well there. We did really, really well there. So I'm excited for next year. Again, it's not the awards that you really do it for, but it's pretty cool.
It's also recognition by people in the industry about what you bring to the table, which I think says a lot, and also it's got to open doors.
It does feel weird to put it on your marketing and branding and packaging and sell sheets and everything,
Sure.
But in today's market, your face time with buyers and consumers are so limited, you really want to have the most beneficial interaction with them. We haven't been too shy of letting them know, and it's been good, especially down in our Connecticut market, right next to New York. Yeah, I appreciate you pointing that out, because that's actually a really nice feeling.
Yeah, no, it has to be. I mean, everybody's in the industry to grow, and some kind of an award like that, that you can hang your hat on, it's awesome. And you should use it.
Thank you.
I think it's something great that people need to understand and hear about.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
But going forward, you talked about some expansion. Where are you looking, and why those particular marketplaces?
We're currently in Mass, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Hampshire. We're about to open North Carolina.
Oh, cool.
That one was a happy accident. I fell in love with the state and its craft scene. My parents moved down there right before the pandemic. Going down and visiting, I couldn't believe how craft-centric it was down there. Not really what I was expecting at all. Obviously Asheville, but they live in Wilmington. And I fell in love with it. So I searched out some distributors, and it was Memorial Day of this year. I received an email. It was the gentleman I was talking to, and he said, "Jeremy, sorry for the delay. So I was having a beer with your dad this weekend, and it reminded me to reach back out to you."
Wow.
And I thought it was a joke, and I called my dad, and sure enough, he's like, "Oh yeah, I know that guy." And so that's how we're opening that state.
Okay. That's cool.
Industry's funny like that.
Yeah.
I owe my dad a beer for that one. But it's a really, as far as strategy and why, really interested in Texas, really interested in California, Illinois, and North Carolina strategically, just because the cider consumption in those areas is much higher than I ever would have expected.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. Not just blindly going down the coast,
Your distributor network.
So it's actually piecemeal right now.
Okay.
We are exploring the network route as far as national or regional. For now, what's really working for us is that deep ingrained connection with smaller craft distributors.
Sure.
Where you can call anyone any time of day. We do really well with that approach, though I do love the network approach.
Yeah, but those guys probably give you more time, more energy. At least initially.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a setup of these ciders here.
Mm-hmm.
So you do 16-ounce cans.
16 ounce.
Draft. And you've got 750 bottles for the high end? Or?
Yeah, we do 750 bottles, and we're actually we just purchased a new canning line that's going to be able to do 19-ounce cans.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Those will be good for the different sports venues and whatnot we're in. It's a real strong emerging market that I never anticipated, especially with cider. I think we have a pretty strong go at it. We're going to be doing a little bit of a rebrand with the cans as well, and be a little bit more lively and bold. And
so let's talk a little bit about your cider. Jeremy, with your different ciders, are you using multiple strains of yeast, or is it the same yeast driven at all? And is it the typical beer yeast, or are you using something else?
So we use different styles of yeast. We use primarily different wine yeasts. We think it has the best product for best result for the product we're aiming for. Like we said, with Saison yeast. You're drinking High and Dry right now. High and Dry is a fine cider yeast, and when it comes to what we do, we typically use about 4 to 5 different styles, nothing less.
And with the change that we mentioned earlier, with the amount of carbonation that you can put into a cider nowadays, if you were moving in that direction, would that be more of like a champagne yeast that you would need? Or?
Absolutely, yeah. That's one of it's one of my personal favorites. We do a champagne style cider here in a mimosa style. So we add orange puree to it or pear puree, and then we do different varieties. It crushes it on weekends when people are either hungover or working on a hangover. So we do that in the tap room. But to your point, the yeast will dictate really where the style goes. I know we talked about this previously, but that's the art of fermentation is what drove me to this industry of being able to, take a color palette and paint with it with different ingredients and yeast and fruits. So it's a really beautiful thing, even though it's done in a very industrial setting.
And from start to finish?
Yeah, so we do pilot batches. We do very small batches, 5, 10, 15 gallons. We proof it out, proof of concept in the tap room, see if it sells, see if people like it. Sometimes they don't, we never make it again. If they do, we scale it up. It's usually about 2 weeks from the start of the batch to the end. And that's because we had all of our tanks custom made. I engineered them to do multiple steps in one. It's just a matter of cutting out turnaround time, being smarter about your steps. But from the beginning to end, it's about 14, maybe 18 days is the latest.
One other quick question, Jeremy. Legislatively, wasn't there a change regarding cider?
Yes. Previously, there was a law about how much you could carbonate a product. We always lightly carbonated our product, but it's still stuck in there really, really well. Now they've increased that volume that you can carbonate the product. We will never go up to like the champagne levels, but if producers want to do that, they can increase the carbonation more and not really suffer a large tax hike in it.
So previously, if you carbonated over a certain number, the taxes went up. Correct?
Yeah, pretty considerably. So it would go from apple wine to sparkling apple wine. It's a very thin line.
Okay, so but now you can go, is it unlimited or is it to a certain number that's close to
a certain number? And they also increased the TTB approved 19-ounce cans too. So
that was not previously approved.
I didn't know that. That's what I read, and so I had seen a few different cideries. I know, but yeah, we hadn't done it yet. TTB just approved it, so we're going to be launching into that.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Walk us down the line and what makes one a little different from the other and what we're drinking. Absolutely. Here.
So this is Core. This is it's kind of a riff on OG, which I'll explain next. Core is a semi-dry cider. It's nice and crisp. There's no concentrates. There's no added sugar, no back sweetening. It's just the apple fermented, lightly carbonated. We do very, very well with Core. These are our 2 biggest sellers, Core and OG. The first one I ever made, this was the one I made in my parents' basement, was the OG, aptly named. So OG is kind of like a little sweeter version of Core. All fresh pressed apples, 5.8%, semi-sweet instead of semi-dry. That is our #1 seller. We sell a ton of that on draft. It just, that one crushes for us. And, it doesn't look like it, but everything we do is unfiltered. Mm-hmm. We just give it kind of the time that it needs to not be super murky and cloudy and whatnot. Because I really do think if you filter your product, you can lose a lot of fun characteristics and funk. Mm-hmm. Honey Pot was the second one we ever made. That is a honey Saison style cider. So we use local honey, Saison yeast. It has some cool funk to it, like a farmhouse Saison does. It has some dryness, and then it finishes with a little bit of subtle honey on it. Okay. Really, really popular one for us as well, and that's 6.8. And then these are our core. These are our traditional styles. What we like to do is have fun with everything else. So we have a cider called Cape Days, made from Cape Cod, which we're right next to. It's a sea salt lemonade cider, which is actually really good. It's very nice on the beach, 5%, nice and light. And so the counteractive cider to that would be Cape Days off season. So it's a dry spiced cranberry cider. So you keep your lines open, you keep your placements. Yeah, it's fun.
Excellent. In your production facility, how many people are you employing? Which is another big part of what the craft industry has done. It's put a lot of people to work.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have 2 salespeople, we have 2 production people, we have someone behind the bar, about 5 total.
Awesome.
We have different tasting crews. If you count the people that have to help me with weekend and midnight deliveries just to spend time with me, we have a lot more people.
Right. As I mentioned earlier, the big national guy is the bench for most people, and to me it's just so sweet that unfortunately many of the people that have done the same thing over the years doing tasting, I don't like cider, it's too sweet. Well, it doesn't happen to me. Putting it in a glass and giving them a taste is the number one way to do it.
100%.
Yeah,
it's the biggest hurdle you face in this industry.
Yeah.
The discovery phase of liking cider is part of the experience.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well, it's as good as any white wine that's in the marketplace.
Sure.
For instances, and I don't know if you make a rosé. The rosés that I've had, the same thing.
Yeah,
it's as good as any rosé that's in the market.
Completely agree.
Do you find the fact that cider is gluten-free, that's been helpful? Because when you go to grocery stores and you see the size of the gluten-free aisle, it's got to check in.
Huge. It's not anything that we intentionally started out trying to exploit, isn't the right word, market towards, I suppose. It just became a byproduct of exactly what we do. We don't push it on anyone with our branding. It's on the can, people know that it is.
Yeah.
It is really interesting to people with our freshly baked series that have pie crust and all these ingredients. Everything we use is gluten-free. It's a reduction of the actual product, so it's not fake and concentrate, but it's completely gluten, dairy-free. People are very sensitive to that, and I didn't realize until we launched that series that our loyal drinkers were like, "Hey, Jeremy, we really like High Limb, but like, are you trying to kill us with this?" And I didn't realize how prevalent
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
huge market.
it is. It seems to get bigger every single day. And I think that is something over beer, et cetera, that the cider industry has. It needs to continue to capitalize on as it goes forward. Yeah.
It made me look pretty good, if I can have a selfish tangent. When I first started dating my girlfriend, her mom had just been diagnosed with celiac, and I showed up at the house with all my ciders, so I had started that relationship on a positive foot. I was very lucky.
Didn't bring flowers, you brought cider.
That's exactly right. I brought instead of a dozen roses, I brought a dozen cans.
In Plymouth, where do they find you?
So in Plymouth, something I always encourage people is we're not right on the water here, but we're not on the other side of the world either. So it's 5 minutes off the water. Come check out the cidery, come see what we're all about, try a lot of the different stuff that we don't have. Typically what we distribute is core, OG, seasonal, and freshly baked. We have 13, 12 more options that people should try. And so if they're in Plymouth, I would love for them to drink it and support our community that supports us. If they want to come to the cidery, ask for me. I love talking to new people that are here and getting them engaged with the brand and showing what we're all about. And
how do they find this place?
so the restaurant that we're partnered with is G-Pub.
Okay.
So High Limb and G-Pub are partnered with this location. It's a really cool spot. So when you walk in, you'll see the full restaurant, bar, dining room.
Yeah.
Then if you walk around back, you have an arcade, and you have a speakeasy in back. And, on full display with our taproom sign, you have High Limb. And part of the reason for that design, you can find us by Google, you go online, go to our Instagram, it'll take you to the location. When someone walks in, if you're looking for us, you'll find us right away. The cool part about this place is we are constantly inundated with new people that are here for the bar or restaurant or whatever, and they just will wander in and go, "What's this place?"
Okay.
And then you can say, "Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'd love to teach you about what we do." And they go back into our game area and lounge, and it's just kind of a cool opportunity.
Okay.
So a lot of it's organic.
I mean, if you're a sports fanatic, this bar out front is absolutely crazy. Your association is partnerships,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Okay. Over the course of the year, we talked about the number of ciders. How much cider do you think you make?
We're at about 6,000 to 7,000 barrels.
Okay.
The tanks that you see behind us are 3,000 gallons apiece.
Okay.
So we're moving a lot of cider. And we're moving a lot of cider in a small footprint.
Yes.
So, as these territories grow and as we're talking to new distributors and whatnot, we have plans to bring in a lot more tanks. My sister does, she's a makeup artist, and she does a lot of the signage and stuff for us just in her free time. What a really important thing to understand about High Limb is we are very dedicated to the craft of cider making. We're also very dedicated to growth, and we're very ambitious. I think a lot of times in this industry, it's not something that I have disdain for, but you're either a guy that makes it in the back and sells it in the front, or you're a VC firm that wants to invest in some, and it's like you lose all the character. We're really, really intent on trying to have our feet in both worlds, get our award-winning product out to as many people as possible without kind of losing the ethos of what this brand is, and starting in my parents' basement, home-centric operation. And I don't ever want to lose that, but I'm very motivated to bring this brand to as many people as I can.
Okay. And the name, where did the name come from?
But we used to be Homestead Hard Cider. The reason being is...
Is that when you were in Attleboro?
Yeah, well, just for a short, I think it's like 2 years.
Okay.
I grew up on Homestead Lane. I figured it was a tip of my cap to starting, in my parents' basement. And so we were Homestead Hard Cider for a long time. After the years of tastings and events and whatnot, everyone would say, "Oh, you Homestead, cool. You make this in your bathtub?" And I always kind of scratch my head and be like, I don't understand why that would be a homestead. It's a homestead. And I'm like, you know what? They're right. I'm confusing them. I get it. I know it's a street, it's a name. So the LLC of the company is Homestead Beverages LLC. Now we're High Limb Cider. High Limb was just kind of a cool pairing of words. But as far as the logo, I drew that at my parents' kitchen table like 12 years ago, and it was the first thing I drew, and it just stuck, and it's been re-engineered in a few different ways. The apple with the lightning bolts just stayed forever, so.
It's cool. Cool logo.
Thank you.
Cider Club.
Yeah, we're working on that right now, actually. We're working on all of the shipping logistics, the cider club. Funny, during COVID, when everyone went the digital route, I kind of went the complete opposite route, and it was our biggest year for growth. We were still producing out of the Attleboro location. The floors were going because we added more tanks. But while everyone was shipping digitally, I was still knocking on doors with people that would allow me to show up masked, gloved, all that fun stuff. We produced so much. And so the shipping option really, not that it was a distraction, but it was just not something I ever focused on because we were having such success growing. And so now that things are kind of up on the plane, I really want to revisit that and be able to ship to people all across the country.
Yeah, I know that's a big part of a lot of smaller companies who call it revenue because people want to experiment. And they're more than happy to reach out to someone like High Limb that they've never had the opportunity, especially with your awards.
We have it on the door, and I think you're right to maybe display it a little bit more.
Especially 2024, we're so close.
Right.
Anything else you want to put on the table for our esteemed consumers and listeners?
I would encourage your listeners, your viewers, everyone listening, reach out to me. If you want to put a contact for my information in there, I talk to people about cider making, about work, about life. It doesn't have to be about cider. I like connecting with new people in the industry, in the market, picking their brain, and just kind of, you never know who knows who.
Sure.
It's half about networking and then half about just kind of connecting with the industry.
Put out right now your email that you would have people reach out to you on.
Sure. Yeah, so it's just JEREMY@highlimbcider.com.
Cool.
So Jeremy at High Limb Cider. None of my last name involved, so you'll be able to spell it correctly on the email, I promise.
I will not try to pronounce it. So I just want to say thank you for opening your doors. Thanks for your time today.
Of course.
Love your stuff.
Thank you.
Love your cider with hardly any left. It won't be when we finish. And I wish you absolutely the best and in your expansion.
Thank you.
And continue to win awards.
Well, cheers, and once you finish that, let's get another one.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview, and will join us again for the next segment of Under the Apple Tree with Bob Kenny, when we visit another one of our great American cideries. Don't forget to like the channel and subscribe. Cheers.